Fox News has just learned this from two law enforcement sources that Trump has been indicted. Perhaps I can go around the table.
What
Katie,
the
I'll start with
fuck?
you first.
What
the
the
president
fuck?
said 2 weeks ago that this was going to happen eventually.
Oh,
That would
shit.
happen, last Tuesday, the grand jury then did not.
I gotta
convene
put a
for 2
fucking
days
suit
in a row.
on.
And inform the results of the 2016 election.
I haven't tied a tie in so long.
They want to overturn the
Bro, this is
2020
crazy. I
election.
can't believe it.
Which there is no evidence, but go ahead.
What, phone calls saying find me 11,000.
What's your definition of find? Like, do you find something that you have to create, or do you find something that's already there?
If you think he wants this, he doesn't want it. The family doesn't want it.
Fuck. I give him
Imagine being Barron Trump. Hey, Dad, what are you looking at? It's not good. And it's horrible that Alvin Bragg, who's a joke in this town, who should get run out of town because crime's running wild, is going after this. If you get a haircut a couple weeks before an election and you pay for it out of your own pocket, not campaign funds, how is that a campaign finance felony? You were going to get a haircut anyway. You wanted to look good anyway. Just like he would have paid off this woman anyway,
You think a
whether he
public
was
affair
running for
with a porn
president
star
or not.
is the same as getting a
It's-
touch-up on
Yeah,
your hair?
it's
dude, come on, dude. Come on, it's just like a masseuse or a haircut.
For Chad Pergram on Capitol.
The only funny part about this is that, like, it is literally the lowest offense that you could get him on. Like, it's just the lowest offense that you could get him on, which is like campaign finance law mismanagement, which has happened regularly and routinely. Other people have had to pay basically just like a small fine, but I'm still going to enjoy it. I don't give a fuck.
Out of the race if you're indicted. Listen, there is nothing legally that stops a president or anyone who has been indicted from running for the White House, even if convicted. That's not going to stop him either. So I don't expect his campaign to slow down. In the least, if anything, I expect it would rev up. But we're all waiting to see documents to get more information. That may take a while. We'll figure out when the arraignment's going to be. But for now, after what seems like a pause, after some interesting testimony from attorney Robert Costello, who said there are emails you haven't seen to the grand jury, there's more to the story about Michael Cohen, and caution from the left and the right that Michael Cohen may not be the best witness to build this case around, they've moved forward. So an indictment is one thing, a conviction is something totally different. We'll see.
It's a felony charge for what is otherwise considered a misdemeanor in almost every single circumstance. It's only sister's wedding, Trump indicted. Absolutely, dude. Abso-fucking-lutely. So the interesting component here is literally that, well, one, there's a couple different things we got to talk about. Number one, Donald Trump has done a fuckload of crimes. I believe, according to the Office of Ethics or Citizens for Ethics Foundation, 53 crimes that he has committed since he's been in office, right? Or leading up to him running for the presidency. So he's done a lot of crimes. That much is clear. This is probably one of the lower versions of that, like in the lowest of low rungs, because of the nature of the crime itself. It is technically considered in other circumstances a misdemeanor, and for it to be a felony, you need to show intent, and also you need to be able to prove that this was done with prior knowledge that it would be illegal. As far as I understand, you would have to literally also show that you did it specifically to save your campaign. Like, there are a lot of different components here that make this such a weird thing to indict Trump over. But, like, it's still funny.
Well, it's a surprise, but quite candidly, we're not supposed to know what grand juries are doing. Ideally, this has been an exception. My position has not changed. I think it is the weakest of the four investigations. It's the wrong prosecutor, which you alluded to. It's the wrong fact pattern. You got statute of limitations issues. It's really a misdemeanor that put on a suit, and they want it to look like a felony. And I just... Look, when our justice system becomes a political tool, then we are on thin ice as a republic, and I think we are increasingly heading in that direction.
Trey, did Democrats just indict a former president over sex? Because we were told during the 90s that it was just
There
sex.
ain't no way.
And
There ain't no fucking way, dude.
And it had nothing to do with politics,
Yes!
nothing to do with policy. Weren't we told that?
Yes!
And you have to understand, He says he didn't have sex with this woman. She had her hand out saying, hey, I'm not going to say anything unless you pay me. So either it's a consensual sexual encounter or it's a shakedown. And Democrats want to make that a felony?
I don't understand. Why would it be a fucking shakedown? It's literally just how they have explained the situation. That's what it is.
No longer going to prosecute prostitution was on that list. So it can't be about sex. It is the falsification of a business record, which, look, I'm not in favor of. You shouldn't do it. It's a misdemeanor.
But come on, come on, let him have this. Like that's Fox News defense is literally just come on, let him have it. Yeah, it's a little bit of crime.
Federal election law violation. The U.S. attorney's already taken a pass on this case. So again, I'm not speaking for the other jurisdictions that have the former president under investigation. I've always thought special counsel was factually the one where he was in the most peril. I don't know why you wouldn't go with your strongest case. And I can tell you right now, Jack Smith probably is not happy about it either, because prosecutors always go with your strongest factual and legal case. This ain't that.
Trey, this is Greg. How you doing?
Hello, Greg.
I miss you. Anyway, everybody always says, nobody is above the law. No one's above the law. It's so trite. But it feels like no one should be below the law either, and it feels like Trump has been made to be below the law. You don't have to meet any standards.
Yeah, it's so fucked up, dude. If there's one thing, Trump, if there's one thing that's happened to Trump, he's been prosecuted too much. That's what I'm always thinking. That's what I'm always saying. One funny fact about Trump is that they prosecute him too much. They over-prosecute him.
The law. So there are plenty of examples on both sides of our justice system being weaponized. So I would think that this would be something that we universally rejected, but unfortunately, if it's done to our opponents, we like it, and if it's done to our friends, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it's significant is because former presidents have gotten in trouble, or presidents have gotten in trouble with the law before. Like, there's that famous horse speed ticket. I forget who it was, but like, there have been instances like this, right? No, I'm not even talking about Nixon. No, I'm not. No, it never. Yeah, it was Grant, right? Obviously, former presidents have violated the law routinely, both during their tenure or even before their tenure. Like George W. Bush was drunk driving, got caught, but that was before he ever became president. So did Dick Cheney, by the way, but that's besides the point. Anyway, but that kind of stuff is like whatever. Grant was speeding with a horse. That's why he got like a couple speeding tickets with a horse. But never in the history of the United States of America have you ever had a former president get indicted for something. Even Richard Nixon didn't get it. So that's why this is unique.
The White House has been asked for comment. When asked, do you have comment? We don't. I believe that was the direct quote. So the White House is not weighing in this moment.
Yeah, why would they weigh in? Are you kidding me? Yeah, we do not comment on matters. So you can call us out as like blatantly moving the needle on an active, ongoing fucking indictment. Yeah, no shit. You know who shouldn't be speaking out on this, and yet he has? Donald Trump. Donald Trump regularly engaged in jury tampering by routinely fucking talking about the indictment before it happened. That is actually another fucking law-abiding moment for Donald Trump. Someone with that level of power and influence should not be able to just leak information that he was supposed to not be privy to because of some of the witnesses that were brought into the grand jury, in front of the grand jury, and then like openly stating that it's fucked up. Not illegal to talk about an indictment? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying it's illegal to talk about an indictment. I'm saying that you could absolutely consider it to be jury tampering if you get information about an indictment that you are not privy to because some of your former lawyers or people connected to your former lawyers have access to information that the public is not privy to, and then you publicly blast the fucking jury on the timeline. You publicly blast the people and try to motivate a potential insurrection in an effort to stop this from happening. He literally said, go out into the fucking streets. Get out to the streets and go out and protest this shit. Okay? That in and of itself is in my opinion, definitely, this is so libbed up. I mean, yeah, it's, for the record, I don't think anything's going to happen. I just want you to understand, I am an incredibly cynical person. I'm just simply reacting to the news and laughing about it. But that does not mean that I think that he has a serious shot at being fucking arrested and going to jail or anything like that. Do not misunderstand me. This is simply for entertainment.
Issue. I'm the candidate in the race who has the experience with Donald Trump. I was the chief deputy in the attorney general's office. We sued the Trump administration over 100 times.
And you believe it should happen?
I believe we have to hold him accountable.
Yes, technically his Secret Service would have to go into jail.
How heavy this feels
alongside Trump.
There are very few moments. I mean, I'm
which is
no
pretty
fan of
awesome.
Bragg did it.
I mean, it's
right?
pretty awesome and it's pretty funny. Like, here's a thing that these fucking dipshits would say, regardless of the material conditions of whoever the perpetrator of any particular crime is, regardless of the low-level offenses that they might be serving a fucking life sentence for, these fucking dickheads in suits would sit there and go, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. But when it comes down to like one of the most powerful motherfuckers on the planet, who literally was the most powerful motherfucker on the planet until he lost an election because Joe Brandon stole it from him, they're like, dude, we need to do prison abolition. Our prisons should be obsolete, right? Like a bunch of Angela Davises. You never would have thought. You never would have seen it. You love to see it. You hate to see it. Doesn't matter. They're like, it is really fucked up that the criminal justice system is so gross and the carceral state is so inhumane. It's like, the fuck do you mean, man? What do you mean? It is for the fucking working poor. For once, we should have a little bit of fun. We should have a little bit of fun at the expense of like an actually powerful person who's done a tremendously shitty job as president. And not only that, but like will receive just a fraction of the outcomes. I wish that this was not done over the hush money for Stormy Daniels. I wish this was done over the RICO charges, the RICO case that's being developed for the past fucking however many years now with Fani Willis. She should be worrying more about her RICO case on Donald Trump for election tampering, which is a very valid case, instead of, trying to make sure that like everyone who's ever rapped under Young Thug's record label goes to prison permanently. Okay? How about you work on this shit instead? I wish it was over that. I wish this indictment was actually over that RICO case, because that RICO case is actually a valid one, a legitimate one. Like that one is actually genuine. That one is actually a viable and valid RICO charge that he could be hit with, because he actually did do something that is criminal, and he should go to jail over it. This one, he's just gonna get a fucking light pad. He's gonna get a tap. He's not even gonna get a slap on the wrist. He's gonna get a little bit of this on the wrist. Okay, maximum he pays like a fine or some shit. It'd be really funny if they perp walked him for that. I love the Associated Press using this photo. That's deliberate. You know what I'm saying? They're pulling the Andrew Tate on him with these photos. They're perp walking him like he's Andrew Tate. Are they gonna like shave his head too and not let him, and then make it grow out unevenly and shit? What the fuck? He's going to be in jail for one night and have his pants hemmed and the sleeves cut off his sweats and have a snack stash like the kids at camp on heavyweights. Oh, yeah. Also, he's rich. He doesn't
think that.
Here's the thing. Rich people don't go to jail like fucking poor people do, okay? He goes to jail or he goes to the fucking courts on his own time. So remember that.
This is almost like 2016, where he just commands all the free media. You know what I mean? And everybody laughed about it. They, like Morning Joe and CNN, thought that they were just going to, amplify him so he'll lose. And it didn't turn out that way.
Do I think that Trump getting perp walked is going to benefit him? Absolutely. He's going to look like a bad bitch. But guess what? Ultimately, that's more content. Do you understand? There's nothing I can do about it. And I'm just analyzing it. I'm just laughing at it. Do you understand? And that's what your perspective on the matter should be. Do not take this super seriously. Do not act like this is going to end him or anything like that. We don't know. It's not very likely either.
We have a reporter on the scene who's describing helicopters already hovering overhead. Several court officers are outside lining up. There's some tension building there. They are saying that Bragg is still in that office right now, as his car is still parked somewhere around there. So far, none of the Trump lawyers have specifically weighed into Fox on this case at the moment. Jessica, want to jump in there?
I don't care what Adam Schiff has to say. That guy is a total basket case and is responsible for the unjust political
Susie3
persecution
Sheep,
of this
thank you for
former
the 5 give the
president.
subs. My food is here. I got to go grab her real
Bragg
quick.
Tried to charge a bodega owner with attempted murder for defending himself. A guy broke into his shop. Luckily, he had a knife and he ended up defending himself. Bragg wanted to throw that man in prison. Bragg lets felons go rape women in this city. It is a disgusting scene at the DA's office, and that man better show up to the cameras and start answering questions about what judgments he made here. And I hope the House Republicans haul his little butt back to Capitol Hill and answer. And so he answers.
Damn, he said he's
to the
fat.
American people about what he's doing here. This cannot stand. I actually agree with Jessica. This doesn't feel right. Something feels terrible.
You know, GOP candidate Vivek Ramaswamy just weighed in, saying very similarly, it will undermine public trust in our electoral system and justice system. He says it's un-American for the ruling party to use police power to arrest.
Dude, you know what's really,
arrest.
yeah, you know what undermines American trust in the electoral system? Constantly lying about voter fraud to a degree, or constantly lying about how the voter fraud actually ended up stealing the elections and then doing a fucking insurrection that was a failure overall over it. That literally undermines elections. That does. It fucks your side over so hard that like Republicans literally were like, why the fuck am I voting for this shit? It genuinely depresses voter turnout when they feel like the deep state pedophile Democrats are fucking controlling elections.
History. Fox News has learned from 2 law enforcement sources that a grand jury in New York City has indicted former President Donald Trump. This is the first former president or sitting president to face criminal charges. The precise charges not currently known, but the case is focused on a hush money payment to a porn actress during his 2016
That's the funniest part, that they have
campaign.
to reveal the details every
This is a
single
moment
time.
that will shake up the 2024 race, but again, is historic. We've never seen anything like this before. Let's get the latest now from senior correspondent Laura Engel, live in New York. Good evening, Laura.
Good evening, Brett. And as you can see, there are cameras downtown at that courthouse. Fox News can confirm that a Manhattan grand jury has voted to indict former President Donald Trump, as you mentioned, the first former U.S. president to be charged criminally. The 23 grand.
I'm not going to lie. This is going to fire up the schizo base a little bit, I think. Like, do I think this is something that the regular Republicans give a shit about all that much? Maybe not. A lot of them are in a holding pattern, voters, I mean, where they're just like looking to see what happens in the primaries, right? But the schizo base is like, oh my God. Like, I can see them trying to blow up the courthouse or some shit. I hope that that doesn't happen, but.
Mom, I want a vape. Mom, I want a vape.
Illegal. You go to jail for that because of Trump.
During a rally in Waco Saturday, Trump, who is again running for president, claimed he's under investigation for something that is not a crime, not a misdemeanor, not an affair. The felony indictment is under seal, and we expect to get more details on the charges in the coming days. Trump's attorneys will likely negotiate with the district attorney some sort of plan to have the former president surrender and be arraigned in downtown Manhattan. A lawyer for Trump told us that she doesn't know when he would surrender. Now, Trump is also facing 3 other criminal investigations, including efforts to overturn the 2020 election, keeping classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, and the January 6th Capitol riot. We will bring you more as we get it here in New York. Brett.
Let's take a look at what Trump had to say about this.
Unusual situation that's taking place. And again, legal scholars can't believe what they're witnessing. And yet, after going over 11 million pages of documents, I built a great company. They've got nothing. They've got nothing. Think of it. 11 million pages. And my tax returns on top of it, and they're a big return. It probably makes me the most innocent man in the history of our country. Friends of mine say that. You will be vindicated.
Not my enemies, just friends of mine. They say that, believe me.
Works. It'll be up to New York jurors now.
All right, Shannon, stand by if you would. Let's bring in George Washington University Law School professor Jonathan Turley. Jonathan, I heard some reaction from you. It is quite something to see this moment, and it's really historic, this moment that we're facing.
It is. It's historic. It's not necessarily good history that is being made. It's not that I oppose the indictment of a former president. I don't even oppose the indictment of a sitting president on constitutional basis. But this indictment, it is reportedly following the theory that we've been talking about, is political. It's a raw political prosecution. Now, the indictment may come out with a crime that none of us have heard of, but for many months, this bootstrapping theory has been put out there. This idea that you could take a misdemeanor under New York law that has expired, that has a 2-year statute of limitations, and revive it.
I love the expiration on it, because, like, you literally couldn't fucking indict him because he was a sitting president. Like, what do you mean? You can't, what the fuck?
Bragg's own predecessor declined to prosecute.
Yeah, they tried to do it while he was the president. You were like, you can't fucking indict a sitting president. Shut the fuck up.
Into a state case. And if that is the basis for the indictment, I think it's rather outrageous. I think it's legally pathetic.
Looking live at Mar-a-Lago,
Legally
Palm
pathetic.
Beach, residence for the former president. I want to read just a paragraph from the New York Times documenting of this in this story. It says, on Thursday, the 3 lead prosecutors on the Trump investigation walked into the building where the grand jury was sitting in the minutes before the panel was scheduled to meet at 2 p.m. One of them carried a copy of the penal law with Post-it notes visible, which was likely used to read the criminal statutes to the grand jurors before they voted. About 3 hours later, the prosecutors walked into the court clerk's office through a back door to begin the process of filing the indictment. As you rightly point out, Jonathan, the federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York chose not to go down this road with this case. The Federal Election Commission chose not to go down this road with this case.
I can't wait for them to like use incredible like legal, like absolutely insane fucking legal counters here to, instead of like addressing the facts of the matter, they're going to say stuff like, well, how could a grand jury ever not be tarnished? Because it's the president and he was a very polarizing figure. A jury of his peers? Well, Trump is unmatchable. He is the greatest superhero of all time. There is no peer. They should throw this grand jury indictment in the trash because, again, you cannot have a peer. You cannot have anyone be unbiased against our Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. Shit like that.
John Edwards, arguing that hush money paid to another woman who bore a child out of that relationship.
Oh, yeah, John Edwards
was in fact a campaign.
That one is legit.
Violation. That was a much stronger case, but they lost. And the reason they lost
He's right about this.
Even if you can bootstrap that dead misdemeanor into something alive, you're essentially arguing a federal case that the Department of Justice declined. But it's also a case that requires you to show, if that is the basis of this indictment, that Trump's his sole motive for paying this money or having third parties pay it was for the election.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem from Edwards. There's a host of reasons why
he can say he did this.
Married individual would want to.
He can say this, that he paid the hush money for not just like this campaign, but actually he paid the hush money to protect himself.
Negotiation that's going to happen.
To protect his marriage.
The dealing with the Secret Service, the fingerprinting, the photograph. We've been through kind of speculation about this. But one last thing on the legal case. You talked about how this is new as far as its construct. And judges would have to evaluate that not only first on the case itself, but then if you got to a conviction on an appeal that could last for a very long time. Meantime, there are other federal cases that perhaps are stronger if you are really going after the former president. The federal case in Georgia about election interference, and not to mention the special counsel and the January 6th investigation.
Yeah, and look, Bragg is.
If I was Trump, I'd be pissed that Fox News keeps saying that, by the way. I'd be like, dude, shut the fuck up. Why do you keep telling him that there are better cases out there?
Theory, which is the only one that's been discussed publicly, that is unprecedented. That New York judges will have.
What's unprecedented is that you can have a president. You can have a president with like better cases elsewhere, both at the DOJ level or at another state. That's unprecedented. It's wild that we're like, well, you know, if you really wanted to throw him in jail, you could have used the Georgia one or the January 6th committee. It's like, what? Like, how unhinged are we as a fucking nation that the former president has better cases that you can use to throw him in jail than the current one that just indicted him? And no one sits around and goes, that's kind of fucked up. That's weird, bro. Quote, it's true, outrageous. By the way. It is true. Those guys on Fox News are saying truthful things right now.
We've also heard from Andy Biggs, Republican from Arizona, somebody who has been a staunch defender of the former president. He says that this is Trump derangement syndrome. Meantime, on the other side of the aisle, you have Pete Aguilar. He's the chair of the House Democratic Caucus, and he says it's long overdue for the American people to see him be held accountable. Let's bring him to justice. Tom Tillis, Republican senator from North Carolina, says that this indictment doesn't pass the smell test. And then Adam Schiff, the former chairman of the Intelligence Committee, also he was the lead impeachment manager during the first impeachment trial. He says that this is deeply and fundamentally necessary to preserve the rule of law. Now, tomorrow was the deadline for these three House committee chairs. I mentioned Jim Jordan. We also had Brian Stile. He's the chair of the House Administration Committee, which has jurisdiction over federal elections. And also James Comer, Republican of Kentucky, who deals with the Oversight Committee. They had another deadline for tomorrow to get information from Alvin Bragg. They want to know what money is being spent on this investigation. They also want to know if he's been talking to the Justice Department. They want to understand the scope. They're saying, look, you're a local DA in one borough in Manhattan, New York. How can you deal with a former president of the United States?
Dude, God, Trump is such a fucking awesome character, dude. I mean, he really fucked shit up, but like, this is awesome. Like, I mean, look at how many different ways you can celebrate this. How hot is he going to look in his mugshot? He is a mugshouty. He is a mugshouty.
They were not going to comment on this until they actually saw official paperwork from the DA. So Democrats, to some degree, and we saw this a couple of weeks ago, Brett, when there was this, swirl, this conjecture that it was imminent that there was going to be an indictment here. The Democrats were more than happy just to kind of sit this out and let Republicans go to bat for the president. They were kind of viewing this from a political lens or through a political lens and say, look, if you guys want to go and defend former President Trump, somebody who's been through 2 impeachment trials, the riot, all these other things here, go do it. We're just going to sit that out and let the American
impeachment
people
survivors.
So the reaction coming in here on Capitol Hill. I should note that just a couple of hours ago, this was the final session for 2 weeks. We're on the Easter Passover recess here, and the Capitol is basically a ghost town. After about 3:30, 4 o'clock, there's nobody here. That would be a different scene. You would have press conferences, people chasing, reporters chasing members up and down the hall, but nobody is here. Everybody has gone home. They went to the airport. They got on the train. And so all this reaction is kind of delayed. It's going to be a slow reaction here from Capitol Hill because nobody is on Capitol Hill right now, Brett.
Yeah, these motherfuckers are the worst, bro. They just like never work. They're just openly fucking admitting that he won. Oh yeah, he really did. He did. This is a day, this is yet another fucking day full of W's for liberals on Twitter. I hate to see it. I hate to say it. But like, every annoying fucking lib, every resistance lib that has popped off on the timeline should be celebrating, really. It didn't happen last time. I don't know why. There it is. Ha 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 ha. Oops, I mean how terrible for Donald Trump. Jeff Tiedrich. He did it. He fucking did it, man. You won, Jeff. You got him. You know, just a little bit. Just have fun with it, is my point. Do I think that he's going to go to jail over this? No. Does it matter? Will it, I hope, piss off the Republicans? I hope so.
Telling him that he is not immune from a subpoena to appear.
Yeah, I love the fucking the Republican Party being like, this is political, so we're gonna make it political. Like, imagine literally trying to intimidate and investigate a DA that's like actively conducting an investigation into a former president of your party. That's wild. That is literally political. Do I think the DA is political? Absolutely. Okay. Do I think this case is like political? Of course it is. Donald Trump. Do I still advocate for it? 100%.
Let's bring in White House correspondent Peter Ducey, live from the North Lawn. I assume the White House is not going down this road as of yet. Good evening, Peter.
They're not. I asked a few officials here at the White House, Brett, if they had any comment on this indictment, if they were going to have any comment on this indictment tonight, and I got a real short response back. It just said, we don't. If there is some kind of a Biden brief.
I love this because, like, what Peter Ducey is doing here and what everyone else is doing in the media right now, especially in right-wing media, is basically like gray name chatters that come in and bait me. Whenever, like, something is happening, they'll be like, Hasan, your silence on this matter is deafening. They're literally trying to bait the White House into saying something so they can fucking be like, look at how political this is. And the White House so far, of course, is not like dumb enough to literally come out and say anything. Okay? So they're like, they're not saying anything
Yet. And recently, officials here have talked about this.
But they're trying. They're trying so hard to bait them.
There are sensitivities because Donald Trump is already a candidate for 2024, and President Biden intends to become a candidate. So they try to avoid Hatch Act considerations, or be respectful of Hatch Act considerations, but there are some questions that they have not been able to avoid. They've told us that they are not aware, they've told us within the last week and a half, they're not aware of any threats tied to political or threats of political violence tied to the Trump, the possibility of a Trump indictment. They've also said that if people are going to protest, it's important to this administration that they protest peacefully, but you get the sense
the far right fell off. React harder, White House.
We have seen something from the former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He has not said he is running for president, but he has said he is mulling a run. And he said in a tweet that the Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, is undermining America's confidence in our legal system. Bragg is the same Soros-funded prosecutor who refuses to prosecute violent crimes. Prosecuting serious crimes keeps Americans safe, but political prosecution.
You know what's funny? They're not wrong when they say that. Because the American criminal justice system is not supposed to throw like rich people and powerful people or right-wing people in general in jail. Okay, unless they're like meth head Nazis that blew up like shot at Transformers at another fucking power facility or something, right? Like, the American criminal justice system is operated under the assumption, has always operated under the assumption that, like, if you're rich, if you're white, if you're powerful, like, unless you fuck over other rich people, like, pretty aggressively, you're probably not ever going to suffer legal consequences for your actions. So with that in mind, they're not wrong when they say this undermines our confidence in the criminal justice system. Like, this guy's not supposed to go to jail. Like, he's not poor. He's not black. He's not brown. Like, that's crazy. Like, he's not supposed to ever withstand any kind of legal scrutiny.
just got a statement from the former president. So it's fairly lengthy, but I'll read it here because we're looking for reaction from him. We'll put up some pictures of him as I read this. This is a statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States of America. This is political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history. From the time I came down the golden escalator at Trump Tower, and even before I was sworn in as your president of the United States, the radical left Democrats, the enemy of the hard-working men and women of this country, have been engaged in a witch hunt to destroy the Make America Great Again movement. You remember it just like I do. Russia, 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 the Mueller hoax, Ukraine, impeachment hoax 1, impeachment hoax 2, the illegal and unconstitutional Mar-a-Lago raid, and now this. The Democrats have lied, cheated, and stolen in their obsession with trying to get Trump, but now they've done the unthinkable, indicting a completely innocent person in an act of blatant election interference. Never before in our nation's history has this been done. The Democrats have cheated countless times over the decades, including spying on my campaign, but weaponizing our justice system to punish a political opponent who just so happens to be a president of the United States and by far the leading Republican candidate for president has never happened before.
Fuck DeSantis. He's
ever.
like
Manhattan DA Alvin.
He had to hit one for DeSantis in there
by
too.
George Soros is a disgrace. Going on, saying rather than stopping the unprecedented crime wave taking over New York City, he's doing Joe Biden's dirty work, ignoring the murders and burglaries and assaults he should be focused on. This is how Bragg spends his time. I believe this witch hunt will backfire massively on Joe Biden. The American people realize exactly what the radical left Democrats are doing here. Everyone can see it. So our movement and our party, united and strong, will first defeat Alvin Bragg, and then we will defeat Joe Biden, and we are going to throw every last one of these crooked Democrats out of office so we can make America great again. Again, that is a complete statement from Donald J. Trump.
It's so sad that Trump can't even get his fucking supporters out there. The only people are like resistance libs that are like 75 years old.
President, current, former, sitting, to be charged with a crime. According to law enforcement sources, the indictment was filed this afternoon, late this afternoon.
I'm telling you,
by
man.
the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and prosecutors in that office after a grand jury vote. We don't, again, have specifics of these charges, but
I'm
it is
not even
tied to
kidding.
this,
Dude, he is
hush money
fucking
payment,
falling off, brother.
To a porn actress that was made in the 2016, leading up to the 2016 presidential election. This is what the focus has been, but again, we don't have the specifics. But there you hear a very lengthy statement by the former president of the United States.
Trump supporters are afraid of cities. They're not going to New York. Dude, you're crazy. Like, I mean, part of the reason why there's not a big enough crowd forming out there for Trump supporters at this time is because, like, the grand jury debated everybody. If you recall, originally they were like, there was a will they, won't they type situation where they kept saying like, oh, we're postponing for another day. We're postponing for another day. We're postponing for another day. And then they just out of nowhere said, we're going to postpone for a month. And then 2 days later, boom, dropped it on them. Dropped it on them like a dime, dude. Fucking awesome. Absolute mental shit, lads. Fucking love to see it, lads.
That they were worried about this prosecution going forward. Again, we don't have the specific papers as of yet, but we know from sources it has been
mental
filed.
fucking strategy.
So I've watched your show, and I agree with Molly in one regard. This is an unfortunate and dark moment. I'd say 2 or 3 different
They
things.
keep saying how dark of a moment it is, and I'm out here like, bro, I can see clearly now the rain has gone. You know what? It's not even fucking raining any longer. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck do you mean?
All I'm saying is I don't know. I want to see the indictment.
It is funny because they don't know, right? So they also keep having to speculate, which we all are technically. So like, what if there is something is like kind of on their minds? You want to know why? In any other circumstance, you could very easily unload. You would need no qualifiers. You'd be like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, he's innocent as hell. Why can't they in this circumstance? Because Donald Trump has done so much illegal bullshit throughout his tenure before he was president, like over and over again, that it doesn't matter. Like, they don't know. He could have just as easily done something in that process where they don't know and they don't want to like look like assholes.
And then we've seen people who have attacked pro-life pregnancy centers around the country. If they ever face justice, it's glacially slow. The effort.
Dude, this literally is like Tucker Carlson's own operation, the Daily Caller, and this is Tucker Carlson's own Michael Knowles. Where do they find these like slimy, wormy fucking Italian dudes that speak with the same exact tone? This is literally Michael Knowles, but for the Daily Caller. What is happening here? It's like blowing my fucking mind. How did they find this guy? It's like, this is actually completely unacceptable.
Every federal investigator who's taken a look at this has turned it down. And now a state prosecutor,
Bro,
Manhattan
close your
District
eyes.
Attorney,
Close your eyes. Tell me this is not Michael Knowles speaking.
claim in court that a federal crime has been committed. He's never faced a federal court for that crime. It is an unbelievable abuse of justice, and it's putting the country in a very bad place.
Okay, panel, stand by if you would. Let's bring in Trey Gowdy, former congressman from South Carolina.
The most
knows
fucked
one or two
up
things about the law.
The most
as well.
fucked up
He's on the phone.
haircut. Trigger warning.
Trey, your thoughts on this day, maybe from the legal perspective first.
I've always thought of the four
So
pending
welcome to the
investigations that we
shit.
know about. It was the weakest factually. There's a statute of limitations problem unless you dress it up as a felony. I mean, it really is a misdemeanor that someone put a suit on, which requires another offense and in furtherance of another crime. We don't know what that crime is. We haven't seen the indictment. I just thought it was the wrong prosecutor, the wrong fact pattern.
Hell yeah, Trey
and
Gowdy.
I'm surprised it happened. I do want to say this, though, Brett. This is not the first foray that our country has been through in terms of politicizing our justice system. I remember vividly listening to people.
This is literally Mike Pence before the conversion therapy, by the way. Like, just straight
Before
up.
a jury found her guilty, and then they chant the same thing about President Trump. We don't lock people up in this country that haven't been indicted or convicted. So both sides, frankly, have done it. And as a former prosecutor, I'm tired of that, but I'm also tired of prosecutors who decide which laws they're going to enforce and which ones they will not. Prostitution, Alvin Bragg says he will not pursue.
How is misusing campaign funds illegally only a misdemeanor? I mean, think about it. Think about why. Think about it this way, okay? Straw donations land you in jail, but misusing campaign funds don't. I wonder why. Well, one, because they've already made it legal to just like dump unlimited funds into any campaign you want by way of dark money, super PACs, right? So if you're stupid enough, Dinesh D'Souza, to like actually do straw donations because you're a fucking dumbass and you didn't know how to do a 501c4 or anything like that, then you go to jail. Well, you don't go to jail if you misuse campaign funds, usually. Hillary Clinton didn't go to jail. Barack Obama didn't go to jail. I believe I'm sure the George W. Bush campaign probably also did this as well. Like, there are, every single political campaign has, in so many different circumstances, misused campaign funds. Not to the same degree, but misused campaign funds in the same way where they're like, they write themselves an IOU or something like that. You know what I mean? Or they mismanage it. What do they do in that situation? They pay a fine. That's why it's considered a misdemeanor. I mean, that's the reason why it's considered a misdemeanor is because it's, it's the people that are going to be the most powerful that will actually be doing the bidding of the most powerful people, right? Like the actually powerful people. You can't throw them in jail for shit like that. That's why it's a misdemeanor. Yeah, it's like when Congress gets caught doing insider trading. You know what I mean? Or when a really wealthy person gets caught doing insider trading, like Elon Musk. It's literally just like a slap on the wrist because the system is not designed to ever throw people that are profoundly wealthy in jail. That is just how this works. But like from what I understand, as far as we know, as far as what everyone has speculated on Trump's charges, technically, if he had filed the in-between funds that went to Michael Cohen, who actually did do the hush money, if they had filed that correctly, this would not even be a thing. Why didn't Trump pay the porn star with his own money? That way, it wouldn't have been a crime. Great question. It's because Donald Trump is not as rich as you think he is. And I don't think he's ever been that rich. He's a con man, or he could literally be just a straight up fucking con man, which he is. And like, that's a very con man thing to do. He's like, yeah, I got all these funds. Let's use them. Who cares?
David, thank you. Let's bring in Alina Habba, attorney for former President Trump. Alina, thank you for the time. Let me start with this. Can we definitively say that you've been informed officially of this indictment, and do you have the scope of the indictment from the prosecutors?
No, I do not have the scope from the prosecutors. I'm his civil attorney, obviously.
Bro, also, I have to also mention this, like, I don't know how qualified Alina Habba is as an attorney or whatever, but it's not lost upon me that like half of his fucking attorneys are sexy, okay? It's very strange that literally half of his fucking attorneys are just like hot babes, okay? I'm sure they're super qualified, but it is literally, no, I'm serious. Have you never seen it? Trump's attorneys, no, I'm not talking about Michael Cohen and shit. The ones that go on television, are literally either from a like Newsmax type fucking operation that they go on the Trump attorney team, or they literally leave the Trump attorney team and become a Fox News correspondent or some shit like that. It's always like that. It's very weird. No, I'm not talking about Rudy Giuliani. I'm not talking about Michael Cohen. I'm talking about the attorney teams, like, I guess, press-facing side. Trump's attorney teams either are like sexy babes where you're like, what the fuck? What's happening here? Or Rudy Giuliani. And nothing in between. I've been indicated. These thugs and radical left monsters have just indicated the 45th president of the United States of America and the leading Republican candidate by far for the 2024 nomination for president. This is an attack on our country, the likes of which has never been seen before. It is likewise a continuing attack on our once free and fair elections. The USA is now a third world nation, a nation in serious decline. So sad. You know this is him, and you know he was fried and angry when he posted this. God, he is so emotional right now, dude. He needs someone to save him. He needs someone to help him out.
We're hearing that it's likely that the former president will be arraigned early next week. And we talked a little bit about that with his attorney about the process, which obviously will involve the Secret Service and the transport and the surreal moment of fingerprinting and photographing in a mugshot the former president of the United States. You talked about going first. You don't think that there's coordination here between Bragg and the others who are in the middle of all of this, do you?
No, there didn't have to be, because it was being done publicly. The political leaders were actually calling on Bragg not to go forward and to let Georgia possibly take the lead. I actually think Georgia's not that strong of a case, but that doesn't say much. Anything is stronger than this. If we're right about the theory behind the indictment, you couldn't have...
Okay, the Georgia's not that strong of a case statement is insane, okay? This guy teaches law at George Washington University. Wild. What do you mean? He just like very openly said the crime that was recorded on the phone. Like, what the fuck do you mean? He like, the fact that he said the actual number of votes that he needed makes it even funnier. You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a wild fucking thing to defend even.
That's probably the greatest threat that the former president faces. Now, the problem, obviously, with the Bragg indictment is you couldn't have picked a worse jury pool for the former president. And, you know, you could, you know, have a hard time finding many people that have no opinion about Donald Trump in Manhattan.
Dude, it'd be so much cooler if more people actually started going to jail or like got indicted, like more politicians. I actually don't understand why people are not advocates for this. Like, they always say, lock him up, lock her up about Hillary Clinton. I'm sitting in the sidelines going, yeah, that would be sick. More, please. I'm actually a fan. I'm actually a fan of this. Please, more indictments. for politicians specifically. It's great. It's fire. This has been a big day for the rule of law for white people. White women won a gigantic W today. Gwyneth Paltrow is found innocent in the ski trial incident. And unfortunately for white men, Donald Trump is, he was indicted. So
To come in next.
the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh.
At the special counsel.
Fox News alert. For the first time in American history, a former president's been indicted. This day will go down as a dark day for
now
America.
it's getting good. Now it's commentary time. You're gonna see Jesse. You're gonna see Laura Ingraham. You're gonna see fucking our big bad boy Sean Hannity. And last but not least, you're gonna see Tucker Carlson fucking going absolute bananas mode. This is where it starts to get good, because leading up until this moment, it's all like news broadcasting. And Fox News, even in moments where there's like breaking news, they oftentimes will do regular old news coverage, regular old news broadcasting. It's time for them to now take it to, what they're good at, which is propaganda.